In today's video, we are discussing some information I've never really spoken about in the past, or at least publicly. And we're also going to talk about 5 knife companies that I personally stay away from, and I'm going to tell you why. Now, if you do happen to like any of the knives or knife companies that I refer to in this video, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm just telling you about my experience and where I get it from. The first one on the list is Grow. Now, I know a lot of you guys like Grow, but let me just go through my experience through the years. So there's a channel, Love Them Knives, awesome channel. He used to do tests, and he would get steels from different companies or different knives from different companies, and he would have a PMI test done, which a PMI test is a positive material identification. It's a fast and non-destructive testing method to verify the chemical compositions of metal and alloy. PMIs can be used to verify that supplied materials conform to the proper standards and specifications. So basically a test to see if the steel is the real steel that they're advertising. Well, Grow over and over and over had their knives tested on his channel and came back as not the steel they advertised. They would advertise D2 and it would come back as HCR. Now, they supposedly had said that the OEM that they were using, or whoever's doing their knives, was doing it and it wasn't their fault, and that they were going to fix it, right? They were going to a different company or whatever. But the problem I have, which I understand things happen, right? Things happen. But the problem I have is that, to my knowledge, all the knives that had already been using the wrong steel were left on the shelves to be sold. Instead of taking them all down and replacing them with knives that have the accurate steel 100%, instead they left knives that had a very high likely chance of not being real, or at least the advertised steel. Now, I can't confirm that they did that on purpose or anything like that, but it does seem that that was the case, because over months of time, knives continued being purchased and continued coming up with the wrong steel. Now, supposedly, they're pretty good and they have fixed this. Most likely, all the knives that were on the shelf have been sold, but I can't verify that either. You'd have to find out yourself on that one, but I just don't like the way they dealt with the situation and how they did not take it down, so it makes it difficult for me to trust that company anymore. Next is Alien Knives. Now, I've never really publicly spoke about this, and I kind of feel bad that I didn't, but I am now. And instead of speaking about it publicly, I just was refusing to show any of his knives on the channel anymore. Now, what happened was in the beginning, me and him were kind of buddies, and he had sent me some of his prototypes that were done by Concept, and I liked them. They were great knives. Concept did a great job. And after reviewing that knife, I actually wound up sending it to another knife reviewer to get checked out. Well, then Alien had sent me a custom knife to check out, and this custom knife showed up and had a lot of issues. Now, in the video, I had started the camera, or I thought I started the camera, I unboxed it, and then realized my camera wasn't rolling. So I realized my camera wasn't rolling, pushed record, and continued rolling from there, and said in the video that, oh, I've already unboxed this. I thought my camera was rolling, but it wasn't, but now we're gonna continue recording. So I do wanna bring up that there was 2 videos made. I had a first impressions unboxing and a full review that was, however long after. So the first impressions is where the camera wasn't rolling because it was an unboxing, and then when the camera was rolling, I did the first impressions, and in that, I did say that the knife had up and down play, but I didn't put it through any, level of stress. I just checked it barely. After that is where I realized, after really testing it and checking it out, that it was failing very easily no matter what I did. And in the full review, that's where I talked about all the things I had experienced throughout my journey with the knife, right? Well, he did leave me a nice comment in that video, and I do appreciate that, but the problem I have is what he said to the commenters below that, or below their comments, like, yes, the knife was originally sent for an unboxing, but was instead unboxed out of camera and the pivot loosened to Jared's liking. This is one of the main reasons I believe you will not find makers in the USA selling their work for a low price range. When the handmade product is sold at a low price or given for free, it tends to be treated in this manner. Would you take apart and loosen the pivot on a handmade knife if it was upwards in the $1,500 price range? Most likely not, as most makers would consider that a void to their warranty on the handmade product. On the other hand, I will warranty and take care of my products regardless if you took it apart, and I will assure I will take care of you regardless of the price range of my knives. So it kind of insinuates that I took apart the knife or messed with the knife in some sort of way, which I did not. And if I did have to tighten or loosen the pivot or anything like that, it doesn't matter. It doesn't stop the knife from failing. I can tighten it all the way to its max and it will still fail super easily, but then it's difficult to even open. And then if it's loosened, then yes, you can open it easily, but it still just does not lock. Like right now, it's pretty tight. And it's basically like a slip joint, like a double D10 slip joint. I can easily tighten the pivot to the max right now. And it's right now, I bet it can easily unlock it, but like it's hard to even open one-handed, but you see how easily it fails. If it's even adjusted to where you can flick it, it'll still fail very easily. It's just the way the knife is, and that was my problem with it, was how easily it would fail and the problems I had all the way across the board with the knife. Now, I want to be clear, this is one of his first knives, and I didn't want to make it like this because it wasn't, you know, I understand like somebody making and being a new knife maker, there's gonna be, you know, problems and things like that. But it's how you deal with it and the way you go about it. Instead of blaming the product, it seemed that I was being blamed rather than the product itself. And that's how I felt. Now, I tried to give him to the best of my ability, constructive criticism in a very nice way, because I wasn't trying to attack the maker. I was trying to be critical, constructive criticism towards the knife itself. Now, the next thing that happened, because I wound up calling him, we wound up talking about it, we got into an argument about it, and the guy that I had sent the other knife to, the other knife reviewer, I had sent that knife to, he said the knife was great, but it just wasn't for him. Well, Alien had threatened to sue him over this because, like, for defamation, and which is just a ridiculous thing to even think. He never even said anything bad about it. But then me and him argued about that and argued about him, why he was in my comment section saying the lies, right? Well, you know, we got through it all. When we ended the conversation, you know, I was a little uneasy with the whole thing, but it seemed like we were kind of cool. Then, months later, somebody contacts me. Well, I'm actually in the middle of talking with Alien Knives at the same time, and he tells me about a guy who's contacting him, having some issues with knives, and, you know, and I'm kind of cool with him, you know, just telling him, you know, like, what I would do to deal with it, you know, and blah, blah, blah. Little did I know that that guy was going to wind up contacting me. Right? I didn't even know who this guy was. Contacted me and asked me if I'd check out a knife he had. And I said, what knife is it? And he sent me a picture. And I said, I've already done a review on this. I already know, you know, and it was the knife that I had gotten, the custom knife, and did a review on. So he didn't know I had a video on it. He had watched my video, then got back to me and said, I have all the exact same issues that your knife had. And I said, well, you know, obviously, right? That's why my video was the way it was. You know, I was just being honest in the video, and he obviously experienced the same exact thing. Now, he contacted Alien, and Alien again proceeded to lie about what we said on the phone with each other in a private conversation. And I believe the guy only because he knew personal details of that conversation, and he wouldn't even know those personal details unless if Alien had done that, right? Which wasn't a big deal that he said anything about the conversation. It was just the fact that he was lying about what I was saying. And made it seem like I had admitted to taking apart the knife, and that basically the reason why the knife was all messed up was because it was my fault. And I had never admitted anything like that. That's just absurd because that's not what happened. So after that, I realized, like, yeah, this is just trouble all the way around, and I don't even want to deal with it. So I just backed off and decided not to show his knives on the channel anymore. Now, I just want to be clear because I don't like attacking a product over the way I feel about the maker in a lot of cases. Maybe in some very few cases, but for the most part, I don't try to do that because I think the product should speak for itself. But at this point, it was both. right? It was the product was bad, and the maker's response was horrible. So I just want to make that clear. Now, the guy who did contact me did wind up getting it worked out with him. He did wind up fixing it and replacing it. I did hear that it took a lot of struggles and back and forth, but he did wind up fixing it or replacing his money or something like that, which good for him, right? Good for him on doing that. Next is MTech and companies like MTech. Now, I'm sure they can make a good knife, but for the most part, their knives, to me, are like gas station knives. And people ask me all the time, what's the hardest steel you've ever had to sharpen? The most difficult steel you've ever had to sharpen? Is it S110V, Maximet? I say, no, it's cheap gas station knives. And MTech is an example of where I attempted to sharpen it, and it was the worst experience I ever had sharpening, because the steel was so soft on that example that it was like trying to sharpen Play-Doh. It really was. So since I've had so many experiences with that company, with steels like that, and just poor performance, poor fit and finish, poor mostly everything across the board, I just tended to steer away from them, in my opinion. That's what I do. I'm not telling you what to do, but that's what I do. Any company that does this next thing, stay the F away from. And that is American flags on knives that don't come from America. I know you want to be patriotic, and that's cool, but buy a USA-made knife in that case. There are plenty of great overseas companies that will make you a good knife, but I've rarely ever seen a company that puts American flags or patriotic themes or anything like that on a knife and it's not USA made to be good quality. So stay away from any knife that has an American flag that is not made in the USA. This also includes knives that say designed in the USA. Rarely will you ever see a knife that says that on the side of the blade and it be a good knife.
Well, they're trying to say that they're trying to trick you into thinking
that it's USA made.
That it's USA
yeah,
made.
For sure.
Yeah.
Now the next one, I think is pretty obvious, but any knives from infomercials.
Knifers, only a few of these beauties left. Say hello to the non-stick Razor Steel Samurai Stabmaster 2200. You want primo slicing action? Look at what this baby does to balloons. Huh? You always have trouble cutting through flan, don't you, Jimmy?
Yeah.
Not a problem. This thing literally cuts through warm butter like it's warm butter.
They're usually using no-name surgical stainless or German stainless steels, and they're just usually crap. You get what you pay for. Now, let me be clear, though. Let me be clear. You are getting what you're paying for. So just know that going into it. They are very affordable, and there's a reason why they're very affordable. They're very affordable because, in this case, you do get what you pay for.
Item number on this one. And the nice thing about these practice katanas, oh, that hurt. Oh, that hurt big time. A piece of that the tip just got me, Odell.
And last is Husk Knives. Now, I've never had one of these on the channel whatsoever. I've never tried one, but I've watched other channels feature them that I do trust. One of them being Cedric and Ada, which has done a steel test on their knife. While it's not a scientific test, and I can't prove that it's scientific, he does do the exact same test across the board with all his edge retention tests. So you can compare them against the other steels and other knives. Now, in his video, he tested it against a poor quality, cheap kitchen knife of some sort, and that knife wound up outperforming the Husk knife massively. And in my opinion, what that says, the reason why Husk knife could not hold an edge for nothing, in my opinion, that's because it has a super soft heat treat, if it's heat treated at all. Now, there's another channel that I want you guys to go watch because he made a video about all of this and did a really, really good job. And his channel is Venerable. Go check out Venerable's video. Big YouTube sponsor wants to take down my video because he broke all this down. And he even talks about a bunch of channels that they send the products to sponsor, to basically rave about their product, which I don't really blame them for this because they're not knife people. So it'd be probably difficult for them to know whether or not it's a good product or not. But either way, these channels all did rave about this product, and that's how they're getting it in front of everybody's eyes. Of the 90 or so channels they sponsored with their product, I wouldn't consider any of them an actual knife channel. However, they were outdoors channels, which kind of implies that they know about knives a little bit, which in my opinion, that's not the case. So that's why I also don't fault them for it. Because, I wouldn't think that they would really know what they're talking about when it comes down to knives. But then it's also a little, sneaky, because why not send it to actual knife reviewers and knife channels and people that actually understand knives? Now, to get some more information on this company, let's head over to the research department.
Research department here. I have some information for you that you might want to know. And this is all just going to be opinions about information that I've readily found available on the internet. Do with it as you will. Now, to start, I want to thank Kenzo Kashida from Blades Power, who wrote a blog about Husk Knives, which really helped me hone in my journey on researching the company a lot faster than it would have been on my own. So thank you very much. To start, I want to talk about the materials that Husk claims to use on their knives. One of the direct quotes that you'll hear them say is that they use traditional stainless steels that were used to make samurai katanas. If you know anything about katanas, red flags will instantly go up because you'll notice katanas don't traditionally use stainless steel. They typically use high carbon steels. And so this in itself is already kind of just shady because they don't use stainless steel. The next thing is going to be the handle material on the knives. They claim to use like an oak wood. And again, they always cite all their materials as traditional Japanese materials. Well, guess what? Oak trees are native to North America. They're very rarely used in Japan. So again, the history here is just off in terms of what materials are being used on the knife and why they're being used. Now, the third thing with their materials would be the steel. The steel was kind of hard to find, but I did find in a couple locations where it was listed as 1810. Otherwise, it wasn't listed at all, which I find equally as shady. But being listed as 1810, if you know anything about that steel, you'll know that it's traditionally called pot steel, and that's because it's the same steel used to make traditional pots and pans. I'll just leave that with you to think about. The next thing is an advertisement that I saw on the blog, and I found other advertisements similar to this where Husk has used professional chefs to advertise their knives. Now, if you look at section 2.3 in their terms of service on Husk's website, you'll notice that they list the knives as not being intended for professional, commercial, or industrial use, and they're only for personal use only. But yet they keep advertising it like a chef knife. When they give it to sponsor YouTubers, they use it in chef settings. Now, what does this mean? In my opinion, with the information available, I think that what they're doing is using the guise of being a chef knife and professional to sell it as such a high quality product, but then being able to protect themselves if it goes wrong in that setting by saying, oh, shouldn't have been using it in that setting for personal use only. We said so. So again, did they ever say that? Is it a fact? No, but with the information available, this is kind of how the dots I'm connecting. Now, the next thing is going to be about the location of the company. There's a lot of Japan being thrown around here, okay? These knives are absolutely not made in Japan. This is a surefire fact. The company is out of Lithuania. The knives are manufactured in China. In fact, I found them all over AliExpress under different brand names, which basically means, in my opinion, they're probably drop shipping them from a company that makes this random pattern over and over and over from China. Again, no proof of that, but the design is all over AliExpress for $15 to $12. You can see it yourself, and then Husk sells it for $29.99. They could easily do that with a 50% markup, 50% profit margin, and make a killing as long as they can advertise themselves as like a fancy knife, okay? That's how I feel. That's the dots I'm connecting with what I have available to me. Now, the last thing would be their rating on Scam Advisor. Scam Advisor is a website where they collect information, research the domain, and see how trustworthy websites are. Husk has a rating of 1 out of 100, which I'm pretty sure is the lowest thing you can possibly get. Now, why is their score that low? Some of the reasons are that the company the domain holder for the website is using a service to hide their identity, which is just like shady. I found some alleged information that Husk may be owned by a parent company, so maybe they're wanting to hide that information. I'm not sure on that one. The other reason is that the website is hosted in a high-risk country. Of course, not everything from Lithuania is a scam, but this does lower your score. The next thing is that they've been reported selling fake products and have been reported as a possible scam on Scam Advisor. Now, note, I am saying possible here because it's not proven, but there are a multitude of reviews about people claiming that they got charged for multiple knives, can't get a hold of customer service, they're being ignored, and there's a multitude of these reviews, which brings me to my last point, the reviews on their website. Are they real? Are they not? No website with all 5-star reviews typically is real. Now, in their terms of service, later on in it, you can see that they have a claim about customer privacy, and they specifically say that customer privacy is important to them and that they will use fake pictures and names for the reviews to protect customer privacy unless the customer explicitly says they can use it. Now, this is weird to me. Usually when people make reviews, they either can check to be anonymous or not. But I've never really heard of websites, you know, if you choose to be anonymous, purposely placing a fake picture and name there. To me, what that is a good way to make it so that you can't tell what's real and what's not, because everything's a fake picture and fake name. Again, they didn't explicitly say this. I'm just drawing conclusions based off what I see. You can draw your own conclusions with the information available. All right, back to headquarters.
So in conclusion, we are not saying that any of the information presented in this video is considered facts. We are just telling you where we formed our opinions and what our opinions are of information that we have found or experienced. Now, you guys can read what's inside this box right here. Until next time, peace.